Once Upon a Time in Mexico looks like a slick gunfight wrapped in a guitar case. But behind that screen lies a story even wilder than the one Robert Rodriguez actually filmed. Today, we're peeling back 20 weird, hidden, and downright bizarre facts about this 2003 cult classic, plus one bonus fact at the very end that almost nobody talks about. Casting chaos, eyeless heroes, secret cameos, lunchboxes full of cash, and tacky t-shirts that hide a deeper meaning. Welcome to the Rewatch Club, where the only rule is, you've got to keep watching. Number 1. A script written in 6 days. Most blockbusters take years to develop. Once Upon a Time in Mexico took less than a week. Robert Rodriguez has admitted that after pitching the third mariachi film to Miramax, he sat down and hammered out the entire first draft in just 6 days, padding the story with a leftover subplot from an unproduced short film.
But again, impromptu in front of camera, Robert just thought of a better shtick, a better thing, and just said, you know what, I don't want to go there. I want to do this instead.
He gave Antonio Banderas only 3 weeks of warning before cameras rolled, and even Banderas thought the schedule was insane. Rodriguez wrapped principal photography in 7 weeks total, leaving the studio in disbelief. They had been used to films that ran a year or longer in production. He just smirked, dropped the footage on their desk, and went home to Austin. Number 2. Quentin Tarantino named the movie. Without Quentin Tarantino, this entire film might never have existed. Rodriguez originally planned to leave the mariachi story at just 2 movies, El Mariachi and Desperado. But Tarantino, his close friend and frequent collaborator, kept comparing the saga to Sergio Leone's legendary Dollars trilogy. He pushed Rodriguez to think bigger, to imagine a sweeping finale with the scope of an opera. And in one casual conversation, Tarantino tossed out the title himself, suggesting Once Upon a Time in Mexico as a direct nod to Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West. Rodriguez loved it instantly. The name stuck, the trilogy was completed, and a single sentence from Tarantino changed cinema history. Number 3. The first big-budget movie shot entirely digital. This film quietly broke a barrier that Hollywood would only catch up 2 years later. After George Lucas privately showed Rodriguez some early high-definition footage from his Star Wars prequels, Rodriguez was floored. He scrapped his plans for traditional 35mm and shot Once Upon a Time in Mexico entirely on the Sony HDW-F900 digital camera. It became the first big-budget studio film captured fully in high-definition digital video. Rodriguez later said film looked so washed out next to the digital footage that he never wanted to go back. He famously joked that the only reason to shoot on film anymore was for nostalgia. A whole industry would eventually follow his lead, but he was first through the door. Number 4. Johnny Depp wasn't even the first choice. The unforgettable Sheldon Sands almost belonged to someone else entirely. The role of the corrupt CIA agent was originally written with George Clooney in mind, and when Clooney became unavailable, Rodriguez circled through a wild list of replacements. Nicolas Cage, Sean Penn, Kurt Russell, and even Bruce Willis were all seriously considered before the part finally landed in Johnny Depp's lap.
As a director, do you have any new plans, and how do you work with directors in terms of your job as one?
Try imagining any one of those actors delivering "Are you a Mexican or a Mexican?" and the entire vibe shifts. Depp turned a side character into the soul of the film.
Well, he does give a baggage to every character in terms of yours, has so much creativity, it can easily go on another movie.
Critics still call his performance the best part of the entire trilogy. One scheduling conflict away, and the movie we love simply wouldn't exist. Number 5. Salma Hayek was barely there. Fans expected a full romantic reunion between Banderas and Salma Hayek, and instead got heartbreaking flashbacks.
So let's skip 3 and go to 4.
Everything he makes me do is a joke because he always challenges me. It's never easy.
Why? Because Hayek was deep in the middle of producing and starring in her passion project, Frida, a film that would land her an Oscar nomination. She simply couldn't commit to a full shooting schedule. So Rodriguez restructured the entire script around her absence. Carolina, her iconic character from Desperado, is killed off between films and only appears in dreamlike slow-motion memories. Those gorgeously lit flashbacks weren't a stylistic choice.
The series was already sort of strange. I thought, let's not make part 3, let's make part 4, and let's have flashbacks to a part 3 that doesn't exist.
They were a logistical workaround, and yet that limitation turned into one of the film's most haunting visual signatures, giving El Mariachi a tragic core that fueled his entire revenge arc. Number 6. The tacky t-shirts were Depp's idea. That weird wardrobe choice you can't unsee? All Johnny Depp. When Depp arrived on set, he came armed with a fully formed vision of who Sands really was.
Hey, well, let's get that dream shot we had, getting a shot of Johnny driving away down the road.
He told Rodriguez he imagined the character as a guy who wore the cheesiest, ugliest tourist t-shirts he could find. The CIA shirt at the bullfight, the bowling shirts, the absurd souvenirs, every single one was Depp's call. He even invented Sands' full name himself, which Rodriguez confirmed on the DVD commentary. Depp said he based the character on a real Hollywood acquaintance who was charming on the surface but secretly dangerous. That eerie blend of charm and menace hiding inside the world's worst wardrobe is exactly what made Sands unforgettable. Number 7. A lunchbox full of money. One of the film's strangest props came from pure accident. When Sands hands Bellini a payoff, he passes him a battered Clash of the Titans children's lunchbox stuffed with cash. On the DVD commentary, Rodriguez explained that the lunchbox was actually his own, a piece of memorabilia he'd been using to carry supplies on set. He spotted it lying around while writing the scene, decided it would be funny, and then simply forgot to swap it for something more sinister. So a kid's collectible from a 1981 fantasy movie ended up smuggling 10 grand across the Mexican underworld. It's the kind of tiny, weird detail that turns a stylish action film into a proper cult classic. Number 8. Johnny Depp's real eyes are visible. After Sands gets his eyes drilled out, the film tries to sell the horror with custom prosthetics and sunglasses. But fans with sharp vision have spotted something unsettling. In the scene where Sands, now blinded, leans against a wall and speaks with the bubblegum-selling boy, you can clearly see Johnny Depp's real eyes glinting through his dark sunglasses in several shots.
Shooting, we still had some time left on Johnny Depp, and Johnny wanted to do something else, and we thought,
It's a small continuity slip that Rodriguez has openly acknowledged. He even said in interviews that he'd gone back through the digital files multiple times, scrubbing crew reflections, shadows, and visible equipment from various scenes. But those eyes? They survived every cleanup pass. Once you spot them, you can never unsee that creepy little detail. Number 9. Quentin Tarantino almost played a villain. Tarantino didn't just name the movie, he was almost cast in it. Rodriguez originally wrote the role of El Cucuy, the knife-throwing henchman, specifically for his friend.
for the knife throw in this movie, I just had Salma toss her hands out in a very dramatic, almost comic book pose.
The director's plan was completely unhinged. He wanted to deck Tarantino out in tight leather, spray tan his skin a few shades darker, and have him deliver his lines in a thick, deliberately fake Mexican accent. The whole thing was meant to be a hilarious in-joke for fans of their friendship. Tarantino's schedule eventually killed the cameo, and the role went to Rodriguez's real-life cousin, Danny Trejo.
Robert, most fans think the idea for the movie was hatched when you did the fake trailer for Grindhouse, but the truth is that you had an idea for it long before that.
By the way, that's also why Trejo seems to appear in nearly every Rodriguez film. They're literally family. Quick pause. We'll get to the bonus fact at the end, and trust me, it's the strangest one yet. Number 10. Johnny Depp wrote his own theme song. Most actors show up, hit their marks, and leave the music to the composer. Depp went a few miles further. Rodriguez asked each of his lead actors for just a few notes, 4 or 8, to inspire their character's theme on the soundtrack.
Sands like to shoot cooks and waitresses. Did you find it funny that, maybe some of us do too sometimes?
While the others gave him short little melodic seeds, Depp came back with an entire fully produced song. He wrote it, performed it, and produced it under the band name Tonto's Giant Nuts. It became track 9 on the official soundtrack album, listed simply as Sands' Theme. For all his on-screen weirdness, Depp's musical commitment was absolutely real. He didn't just play Sands, he scored him. Number 11. Half the movie is in Spanish on purpose. If you remember reading subtitles for big stretches of this film, that wasn't an oversight. It was a quiet revolution. Roughly half of Once Upon a Time in Mexico is performed entirely in Spanish, which was almost unheard of for a major Hollywood action picture in 2003. Rodriguez insisted on it, casting actors who spoke no English at all and simply telling them to deliver their lines in their native language. He believed it would feel infinitely more authentic than forcing Mexican characters to fumble through English dialogue. And by the way, before you forget, we've already made videos on a few Eva Mendes movies. Which one was your favorite, and would you like to see more of her? Drop her best film in the comments. Number 12. A body double without digital effects. When Barillo, the ruthless drug lord played by Willem Dafoe, hires a man to undergo plastic surgery and become his perfect look-alike, the resemblance on screen is genuinely uncanny. So how did Rodriguez pull off such a flawless transformation? The answer is shockingly low-tech. He didn't use prosthetics, makeup, or any digital trickery whatsoever. The actor playing the body double was an assistant on set who already happened to look almost identical to Dafoe in real life. Rodriguez took one look at him and realized he had a free special effect walking around the production. No CGI, no morphing software, no makeup department miracle. Just one wildly lucky bit of casting that ended up being the most realistic transformation in the entire film. Number 13. A yellow t-shirt that connects 3 films. Robert Rodriguez loves his secret signatures, and this one runs through the entire Mariachi trilogy. In every single film, El Mariachi, Desperado, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, there's a small boy wearing a bright yellow t-shirt hidden somewhere in the background or foreground of a scene. It's a quiet through line that ties the 3 movies together visually, the kind of thing only the most obsessed fans ever spot. Rodriguez has confirmed it's a deliberate Easter egg, his personal way of marking each chapter of the trilogy as part of one connected story. It costs nothing, says everything, and it's the kind of subtle filmmaking love letter that only a director with full creative control would even bother to plant. Number 14. Antonio Banderas got a hidden tribute. Listen carefully to the presidential party scene. because the Spanish dialogue contains a beautiful little gift to its star. When El Mariachi approaches the president and asks what song he'd like to hear, the president names La Malagueña, a famous traditional Spanish piece. The title literally translates to "The Girl from Malaga." Why does that matter? Because Antonio Banderas himself was actually born in Malaga, Spain. Rodriguez slipped that quiet hometown nod into the script as a private gesture to his leading man. Most viewers never catch it. Even native Spanish speakers usually let it slide right past. It's one of those tiny moments where a director uses dialogue to whisper a personal thank you, hidden in plain sight on the biggest stage of the film. Hit that subscribe button if you've been enjoying these. It genuinely helps the channel. Number 15. A hidden Wilhelm scream. Cinema's most famous sound gag is buried inside Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and most people miss it on the first watch. The Wilhelm scream is a stock audio clip from a 1951 Western that countless filmmakers, from George Lucas to Quentin Tarantino, have secretly slipped into their movies as an inside joke for sound nerds. Rodriguez joined the club here. When one of the bad guys on a motorcycle slams into a car and goes flying through the air, you can clearly hear the legendary scream just before he lands. It's a wink to film buffs everywhere, a tiny audio Easter egg that connects this Mexican gunfight to almost a century of Hollywood action history. Number 16. Carlos Gallardo's quiet cameo. Long before Antonio Banderas ever picked up the guitar case, the original El Mariachi was played by Carlos Gallardo in Rodriguez's $7,000 1992 debut film.
Imagine getting some friends, an old film camera, and $7,000 that you receive for lending out your body to medical research.
When the trilogy expanded into bigger Hollywood territory, Banderas took over the iconic role completely. But Rodriguez never forgot his old friend. Gallardo returns in Once Upon a Time in Mexico as Lorenzo, one of the loyal mariachi gunmen who fights alongside Banderas during the climactic Day of the Dead battle. It's a quiet way of bringing the entire trilogy full circle, letting the original face of El Mariachi share the screen with the man who made the character world famous.
Like the mariachi character, who triumphs over adversity. Carlos Aguilar, 13 Eyewitness News.
Few fans realize that the trilogy's first hero never actually disappeared. He just got a new name. Number 17. Mickey Rourke's real Chihuahua. The tiny Chihuahua tucked into Mickey Rourke's arm throughout the film wasn't just a quirky prop. It was Rourke's actual pet dog. He insisted on bringing his beloved companion to set every day during production, refusing to be separated from her. Rodriguez happily wrote the dog right into the character of Billy Chambers, an exiled American mobster, and the result is one of the strangest, sweetest performances in the entire movie. The dog gets surprisingly emotional reaction shots, often more expressive than some of the human characters around her. Tragically, Rourke's beloved Chihuahua, named Loki, passed away years later, and he reportedly considered it one of the greatest losses of his life. That little Mexican standoff co-star was real love on screen. Number 18. Eva Mendes had to translate her own lines. Eva Mendes plays the duplicitous agent Ajedrez, but pulling off the role wasn't easy. Although Mendes is of Cuban descent and grew up around Spanish-speaking family, her command of the language at the time was reportedly shaky. She had to work hard to deliver her Spanish dialogues convincingly, even rehearsing her pronunciation for hours so the performance felt natural on screen. Rodriguez supported her through it, and the result is one of her most memorable early roles. Speaking of Eva, we've already covered a few of her movies on the channel. Tell us in the comments which Eva Mendes film hit you the hardest, and whether you'd like to see her next big role broken down here on Rewatch Club. Number 19. Johnny Depp wouldn't leave the set. Depp finished all of his scheduled scenes in just 8 days, which should have meant his job was done. But he was having so much fun working with Rodriguez that he genuinely refused to go home. Instead, he asked the director if he could play another role just to stay involved. Rodriguez immediately wrote him a small extra cameo.
Because there's a lot of things I want to do that doesn't fit in this story, but I would still like to do.
The priest that Antonio Banderas confesses to in the church. Depp showed up in costume, cracked out a full Marlon Brando impression for the scene, and delivered the lines with a totally different voice. So if you've ever rewatched that confession sequence and thought the priest sounded weirdly familiar, you weren't imagining things. It's literally Johnny Depp playing two characters in the same film. Number 20. Released 2 years after filming. This one always trips up casual fans. Once Upon a Time in Mexico finished principal photography all the way back in May 2001, but it didn't actually hit theaters until September 2003. That's a 2-year gap between wrap and release. Rodriguez had rushed the production specifically to beat a potential Screen Actors Guild strike and ended up shooting it before he made Spy Kids 2. The studio then sat on the finished film, slowly tweaking and finalizing it during post-production while waiting for the right release window. That delay is also why Rodriguez had so much extra time to polish the digital effects and re-edit scenes from his Austin home compound, making it one of the most heavily refined movies of his career. Number 21. Bonus fact. The credits are pouring out of Sansa's eye sockets. This is the one almost nobody catches, and it's the strangest detail in the entire movie. If you stay seated all the way through the end credits, then keep watching just a few seconds longer. The camera slowly pulls back from the rolling text. As it widens, you suddenly realize the credits haven't just been scrolling on a black background. They've been pouring out of Agent Sands' empty eye sockets the entire time. Johnny Depp's character calmly slides his sunglasses back on as the final image fades to darkness.
Quick and easy digital effects are also like just removing things like reflections of the crew in glasses. And
It's an absolutely demented, brilliant, deeply Rodriguez touch. One final visual punchline hidden after the goodbye. Most people walked out before they ever saw it. Now you'll never forget it. Once Upon a Time in Mexico is more than the final chapter of the Mariachi trilogy. It's a cinematic time capsule. Rodriguez's wild 6-day script, a lunchbox full of cash, and a rogue CIA agent who literally bleeds the credits at the end. It marked the moment digital filmmaking truly arrived, and it gave us one of Johnny Depp's most underrated performances ever. Now here's your challenge. Can you like, comment, and subscribe before the next bullet flies? Tell us which fact shocked you the most, and which movie you want us to break down next. Which moment from this film still gives you chills? And most importantly, are you riding with the mariachi, or have you finally joined the Rewatch Club?